Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for being here today. Before we begin this January wrap-up, let's first start with a dad joke. Or a mom joke. I mean, the title says dad joke, so anyway. Why did the banana go out with the prune? Because he couldn't find a date. Come on, you son of a bitch, that's funny. Hello everyone. Today's video is going to be my January wrap-up, and I am using a new lens today. And what I love about this lens is that it is so beautifully done that you can see every wrinkled fiber in my shirt, which I just think is excellent. I got this lens for Christmas and then paid double for the adapter to the camera, so I'm pretty bitter over it, but we're not here to talk about that. Today we're here to talk about this huge stack of books that I read in January. Here's the deal. In my 2021 reading goals, I said that I didn't want to read as much as I did in 2020, and that still stands. But I did mainly, the point of what I was saying was that I just didn't want to read when I wasn't in the mood, because unfortunately, reading has become somewhat of a homework assignment to me. Like last year, I was definitely trying to read really fast so that I had more to talk about in my wrap-ups, which here we are. And so it started to become more of a chore unless it's something fun. But because I didn't start school until the end of January, I wanted to make sure that I was reading as much for fun as I could before the semester started. And that's damn well what I did. So I have 11 books to talk about in this video, and I'm excited about it. So let's begin. Okay, the first book that technically I started this at the end of 2020, but I didn't finish it until January 1st, and that is Second First Impressions by Sally Thorne. This is the same author that wrote The Hating Game and 99% Mine, and it was a delight. It is so cute. This was an ARC, so you technically can't get it until, what day? March something? You know, I thought it said it on here somewhere, but it doesn't. So it comes out in March. And I gave The Hating Game a 5 out of 5. I gave 99% Mine a 3 out of 5, I believe. And Second First Impressions gets a 4 out of 5 for me. It is really sweet. It's about a girl that works at a retirement home, and she just is like, this is my life. I'm never gonna go anywhere else. Like, I'm happy where I am. And she meets this guy, and he's like, typical bad boy. God, that sounded so gross coming out of my mouth. But she meets this guy that doesn't really fit the bill of who she thought she'd be attracted to. And, well, I won't spoil it, but it's super sweet and really fun. Not as steamy as the last two books from Sally Thorne, but still quite the treasure in her repertoire of books. So that's the first one. All right, next I read Trust Exercise. What? So what is this book about? I don't even know. I mean, I said this in another video, but this is kind of like Normal People on Speed. It's like, it has a similar detached tone of writing, but it's very much more detailed than Normal People was. So even though you feel detached from the characters a little bit, you get way more emotional detail from this book, and not in a super great way. The first half is told from the perspective of someone in this broken relationship. It was like a good relationship, and now it is not a relationship, and you're watching as they deal with this heartache at high school. And then the second half of the book is from the perspective of a student that watched this drama unfold in the future. If it's not making sense, that is how my brain feels about this book. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it. I actually thought it was kind of brilliant at some points. So I gave it a 3 out of 5 because it just lands right in the middle for me. But it's a National Book Award winner. So, boom. All right, next I read Passing by Nella Larson. I meant to read this book right after I read The Vanishing Half, but then I couldn't find a copy I wanted. And then I found a copy I wanted. And I'm so glad I did, because this book is so good. And the ending? what? Like, when I started reading this book, I was like, I think I understand what's gonna happen here. And then you get closer to the ending and I was like, oh, that was a twist that I wasn't expecting. And then, God damn, in the last 5 pages, I was like, what just happened? In a very interesting way. Like, it's not like trust exercise where you're just kind of confused. The ending of this book was so cool. So basically, this book has similar themes of Vanishing Half, where there's 2 women who are Black women who could grow up white passing. One decides to do so, one decides not to, and you watch as their lives weave together, how they meet again in the future when they're adults, how their lives and their bond, like, you know, I don't know, mend together and then break apart and then come together and then break apart. It's a very, very cool storyline. And I think it was excellent. I really had such a wonderful time reading this. I read it in a day because it's super, super short. So I gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought it was wonderful and I highly recommend it. Okay, the next book I read was the absolute worst book I read all month and might go down as one of the worst books I've read in 2021. I mean, no promises, but we'll see how it ends up. And that was Hard Rules. This is part of the Dirty Money series, and it was just an audiobook on Scribd, and so I was like, why not? I'm driving a long distance. I'm just gonna listen to it. And oh, that's not completely true. Sorry, back up. I saw it on TikTok. There was someone who made a TikTok that was like steamiest reads that you should read, and this was one of them. And it was steamy, and not in a super believable way. I didn't buy into the chemistry between the 2 characters. I didn't care about the drama. It's like all about like money laundering and tax evasion and just like there's a bunch of crimes going on, and the 2 people that like meet, it's a guy and a girl, and they start this relationship together and they shouldn't, and their families have a lot of drama, and you're like trying to figure out what that drama is. And I just didn't care. I didn't care about the drama. I didn't care about their romantic connection. And it just overall sucked. The writing was pretty terrible, to be honest with you. So I would not recommend this one, even if you were like, oh, I just want to read something steamy. Still wouldn't recommend it. Not even, no. Okay, the next book I read was my first 5 out of 5 this year and was so stunning and so devastating. I think it is a true piece of literary art. Like, I really think it's a masterpiece of a novel, and that was The Death of Vivek OG. Oh my God, this book is simply marvelous. It is wonderfully done. It is so sad. So sad. I actually don't want to say too much about the plot on this one because I don't want to give you an impression that makes you go into this reading experience expecting something, right? But there is love and tragedy and identity and family and acceptance and sexuality and who you really are. And it's simply so wonderful. I thought it was so well done. And I will say this, if you have seen it on people's shelves or if you've seen it in people's wrap-ups and you've been interested in giving it a read, you just don't know if you should, 1000% you should. I really think it is such a wonderful book. So loved it. Truly, truly loved it. First 5 out of 5 of the year. And what a wonderful way it was to start. All right, the next book that I read this month was Outlawed. And before we begin the review portion of this book, let's first look at this photo. I mean, can we? I was so proud of how it turned out, and I tried doing it with eyeshadow and it was not working. So then I ran out to Target to get some like white eyeliner pencils. You don't need to know the story, just know that there was a lot of effort that went into this, and I'm really proud of how it turned out. In any case, Outlawed, I was so excited for this book, and although there were some really fun parts, overall it fell really flat for me. It was a 3 out of 5 for me. I think that there were some really cool conversations, and overall it was like, oh, cool. Oh my God, I thought there was a spider on my neck. Oh, it's just my ponytail. Jesus to hell. So at first I thought this book was super fun, right? There's like someone on the run and she finds this group of outlaws, and it's like robbing banks and taking names, right? Like it's fun. But then the ending came and it just fell super flat. Like it's not like the characters went and did something I didn't like. It's literally that it just ended. I really liked the setup. I did like the characters. I thought it proposed some interesting conversations, but overall didn't really hit the mark for me. Hit the mark like a cowgirl would, huh? So that was Outlawed. Okay, next. Woo, bitch. Okay, next up, this is another book that I plan to read immediately after I finished reading The Vanishing Half, and that is The Mothers by Britt Bennett. Admittedly, the reason why I didn't immediately read it after I finished The Vanishing Half was because it was called The Mothers, and I'm not a mother. So I was like, is this just gonna be like a book that will be more more relatable as a mom? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just thought maybe this just isn't the book that I want to read right now over the summer. I'll just press pause on it. It was only I who lost out over the last 6 months. Only I can mourn over the months that I spent not reading this book because I think it is phenomenal. Quite the delight. I thought it was just, to be truthful, spectacular. The writing is so good. The Vanishing Half is also one of my favorite books of all time. So it was already established that I was going to like the writing and the subject. It does have to deal with mothers, but it's mainly about this young girl who meets this guy who she's kind of always had a crush on, and they start dating, and she gets pregnant. And then she gets an abortion, and then kind of watches how that decision weaves through the rest of her life and the rest of his life. And so it has so many plot lines that effortlessly weave together in the overall structure of the story. And it is just so well done. And I think Britt Bennett's character building is unlike that of any other book I've ever read or author that I've ever read. So highly recommend this one. If you've read The Vanishing Half, please give this a read. If you've only read this one and you haven't tried The Vanishing Half, give that one a read because they're both phenomenal and they deserve all the hype that they're getting. So there you go. All right, next up, I read maybe the shortest novel of all time, which was this beautiful recommendation from one of my friends, Ale. She has a YouTube channel and an Instagram, and I will link her down below because I think she is truly such a gem. But she loves this book, and so I decided to give it a read, and that is 84 Charing Crossroad. I'm gonna go Charing. But it's basically just a collection of letters between this woman, Helen Hanff. It's her letters to this bookshop in London. Like, she lives in New York and she keeps sending letters to this London bookshop because she feels like she can't find the books that she wants in the United States, like in her local bookshops. And so she keeps sending over letters to London, to this little bookshop, and she's like, hey, do you have this one? And then they'll send it over, or they can't find it, or whatever. And it's just this correspondence between woman and bookshop. And then she becomes friends with everyone in the bookshop. And dear heavens, did I cry at the end of this book in a way that I wasn't really expecting, because I didn't know where the story was going, because it's really just a collection of letters. So I was like, where is this gonna go? Like, how are they gonna wrap this up? And then it's literally like in one of the last chapters when something happens and I was staring at the page like, what is going on? Like, I was not expecting that. And then the final line of the novel comes. I stopped and like gasped and could not believe the emotional train that had hit me when I reached the end of this book. So I thought it was wonderful, and it's super, super short. So if you can find a copy, whether that's in person or online, like using Libby or Hoopla or Scribed, whatever, I highly recommend giving it a read. It's super, super quick, and I just feel like it made me want to write a letter, you know? So, and it also made me want to hug my loved ones. So there you go. All right, we're getting close to the end, my friends. The next book that I read this month was James Baldwin's If Beale Street Could Talk. This was my first ever Baldwin, and I feel like it was a wonderful way to start with Baldwin because it's one of those books that I've heard so much about. And so I'm so glad that I finally read a Baldwin, and the writing was like true craftsmanship. Like, I can't even tell you, it was like wordsmithing. It was wonderfully done. I thought that the writing was just so intricate. You know, when you're reading a book and you're like, okay, I'm reading it. And then you read other books where you're like, wow, every word and every sentence feels like it's holding weight in it, and that's how this book felt. So the story is about this woman who is pregnant, and she's very much in love with the father of her child, but he is in prison for a crime that he did not commit. And so you are watching some chapters about how they met, how they fell in love, how their child came to be, and then you're reading other chapters where it's all about law, and it's about trying to figure out how to get him out of prison and how to prove his innocence. I don't want to say too much. I was literally just about to give you a huge spoiler. But it's a really interesting book on how it like deals with the romance and like falling in love with someone for the first time, while also other chapters that would be spliced between would be about proving innocence. And like seeing a man fall in love, and then seeing other chapters where he's in prison and he feels isolated and abandoned. And it was just wonderful. It was definitely not what I was expecting, just because I hadn't read what this book was about, which was actually a fantastic way to go into it. And so I feel like it was a great way to start with Baldwin. I'm very excited. I have Giovanni's Room and Go Tell It on the Mountain. So if you've read either of those two, let me know which one I should read next, because I definitely want to read a lot more Baldwin as I continue through life. All right, the next book that I finished was Firestarter by Stephen King. It's a hard one. This is a tough one to give an opinion on because the ending was really fun. But everything leading up to the ending felt very repetitive and almost like you're a rat in a trap. Because, I mean, the two main characters are kind of on the run from this like society that's run by the government. And so they're on the run. And so you also feel like you're on the run. And anytime you think that they're safe, they're not safe. And anytime you feel like they're caught, you're constantly wondering how they're going to get out. And it was just like this constant on the run book in an exhausting way where I was like, by the end, I was like, I just want this to be done because I'm tired of being on the run at this point. I was tired at the end of it. And I also feel like in a lot of King's earlier novels, the way he depicts Indigenous people is super harmful. And it's just, with every new old book of his I read, I am becoming more and more aware of that. And that was definitely a theme that came up a lot in this book. So unfortunate and super annoying to read. And every time it came up, I just kept cringing because I'm like, could you have found a better way to create a villain that's not based off the fact that he's an Indigenous person? I don't understand. So yeah, not my favorite. And then the last book is The Shining by Stephen King. I technically haven't finished this as of this moment, and I'm filming this on Saturday. You're seeing this on Monday, but I haven't technically finished this. I need to finish it by tomorrow for our book club's discussion on Elias's channel, so I hope you were all able to make it. If not, we always save our lives, so you can go, saves our lives. We always save our live shows, so you can go back and watch that if you missed it. So yeah, I really like The Shining, the movie and the book, and I've written a lot about it for my master's degree. So there you have it. Anyway, my friends, that's the end of this video. Those are the books that I read in January, and I am super excited for February because, before you ask, yes, it is my birthday month. Just Pisces things, you know? Anyway, I love February. It's my favorite month of the year, so. Because it's also Valentine's Day, and I think Valentine's Day is sweet. So anyway, excited for February reads. I did start school back, so we'll see how much reading I get that's not for school. Anyway, that's the end of this video, my friends. I hope you liked it. I hope you had fun, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!